Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our discussion on CRM and cloud telephony integration. Before we get started today, I just want to take a moment to acclimate you with the platform and show you how you can interact with us during the webinar. Some of you may not have seen the On24 platform before, so just want to make sure you know what's at your disposal. The main screen where you're seeing the slides right now, you can maximize or minimize that as much as you would like. You can also do that with any of the other windows that are open. The Q&A, as you might have figured out, is where you can enter your questions for us throughout the presentation, and we'll try to get to as many of those as possible. The media player that's below that will control the volume on your computer. So if you're having a hard time hearing us, or you want it to be a little bit louder, a little bit softer, that's the place to do it. On the bottom of the screen, there's something we call widgets. And when you click on those widgets, feel free to do that at any point throughout the presentation. That's where we have some extra information for you. On the very right, that first one is a resource list where you can download a PDF we've created for you about CRM and cloud telephony. There's also a registration link for our next webinar. The second one in from the right is a survey just to help us get an idea of what we can help you with and what you're trying to gain out of your experience today. And then if you go to the third one from the right, the little blue one with the face icon, those are speaker bios for myself and Chris and Leighton, and there's ways to contact us through there as well. So feel free to click around and hello, and let us know if you have any trouble with any of that. So let's get started.
Hi, everyone. My name is Leighton Rosendale. You don't see my picture up there, but I'm kind of like the woman behind the curtain. I'm the marketing coordinator at Corporate Technologies Group. We're located in Hudson, Ohio. A little bit about CTG. We have both a national and international reach with relationships with over 140 IT product and service vendors. With our extensive industry experience of over 20-plus years, combined with a vendor-agnostic approach, we are able to develop impacting solutions that allow businesses to effectively outsource the management of their voice, data, security, premise-based phone systems, and cloud-based services. One of our speakers today is Chris Abdrahim. I hope I said that right, Chris, who is also speaking on behalf of Corporate Technologies Group today. He is our CRM and cloud telephony integration expert. He is the chief product evangelist at Protoscope. I'm butchering that. Sorry, Chris. Also speaking on the webinar is Deneen. She is the marketing director at Technology Advisors, who is a CRM and business technology consulting company with more than 32 years of experience helping clients build their businesses through connected systems. TAI specializes in CRM selection, implementation, onboarding, training, and continued education. And they are also experts in CRM customizations, integrations with ERP, social media, telephony, analytics, and many more software tools that enhance the ROI of your CRM investment. Their company motto is, "We listen, we personalize, and we stay with you." And it reflects in their innate belief that your software consultant should understand your business goals and stick with you long term to serve as your ally and advocate. The next slide, we'll be going over today's agenda, which we will be discussing the following questions in more depth, such as what is cloud telephony? What do businesses, or why do businesses adopt cloud telephony? Making the case for integration, what to look for in a telephony system, questions to ask before integration, how to get started with integration, as well as answering any other questions that you may have or think of throughout the webinar. So up first is Chris, and he will be talking about what cloud telephony is.
Hi, everyone. So, as we look at, the picture of how far we've evolved from, traditional telecom. My experience in the military, if you see that picture, that's kind of what we were doing in the military. It's almost not exactly, but pretty close. And things have evolved, and specifically telephony has evolved now, where communications can now be hosted. You don't have to have some type of on-premise PBX anymore. You can pretty much get rid of that. The infrastructure for the internet is now at a point where we can actually have real-time voice passing through the internet and traffic, where the quality is going to sound good, and it reduces of having those hardware costs in the closet. And obviously, this is the new emergence of where we're going as an industry. Everything is moving to the cloud, and there's a lot of benefits of what can be done because moving your communications to the cloud. So as I was mentioning earlier, with the cloud PBX and the cloud installation that's happening with the network infrastructure, one of the biggest things that obviously is happening with cloud telephony is you can basically work from anywhere. You can work from your office, you can work from home, or you can work on the go. Communications is obviously a very key component to this, and one of the benefits that I don't think a lot of people have really taken advantage of is when we used to hear the term CTI, and that was what they called computer telephony integration. And just a little bit about my background on that topic is, I actually sold a company to a very large carrier that was very specific in developing these types of technologies for the communication space. So moving to the next slide, why is this so important, right? Why is it important that we adopt cloud telephony? And one of the biggest things that's obviously emerging, I know people have heard this over and over, is that, data is the new oil, right? Or data is gold. I've seen some hashtags out there where people say data is gold, and, it's like, what can you do with that data? And obviously there is a lot of data that is hidden within our communications. And the only way that you'll ever be able to unlock that data is basically if you can move the communications to the cloud, then you're going to be able to access a lot of this, reporting. And obviously one of the other benefits is the mobility, right? Allowing people to work from anywhere. And then the questions of security and privacy, it's a lot better if you have a bunch of engineers working on one system than an employee having to, somewhat quasi work on your network, part-time. So you have basically scale and obviously the power of the UI with the data. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Deneen. Next one.
Thanks, Chris. So if you're on this call today, you obviously recognize that telephony integration is becoming really important. And a study by the Aberdeen Group actually showed that the average company retains about 75% of its customers every year. So that graph on the left there is showing you, on average, what are you losing? The 25%, right? But what the study also found was that when companies are integrating their CRM and telephony together, that retention rate goes up to 87%. As experienced professionals, we all understand the long-term value of a repeat customer. They spend more with you. They recommend you to other people. Their influence is really invaluable. So being able to retain more of those individuals is huge. Studies have also shown that companies with integrated phone systems have a higher customer satisfaction rate because you're enhancing the customer experience. And we'll get into that a little bit more later. But essentially, what you're doing is you're giving sales and service reps the knowledge at their fingertips so they're able to see all that past call data, any other interactions that occurred, notes from past discussions, etc., and that avoids extra hassle. Think about it like this. If you ever called a customer service line and they've asked you a bunch of questions and then transferred you to someone else, and that person proceeds to ask you the same questions over again, that is an infuriating situation to go through. You just answered all these questions. You have to start over. Call data stored in the CRM through telephony integration prevents those sorts of issues by having all that past information logged already. So your customer flows through the sales or services department without those redundancies. And if another employee has to step in, they know exactly where to pick up that conversation. So let's take a look at some of the features that draw businesses to cloud telephony and help them streamline those operations. So first and foremost, quantifiable call data. A good CRM phone integration makes your data management and call management much easier to measure. Data from each incoming or outgoing call is collated and stored in the system, and then additionally, the integration gives you analytical tools for processing that data intuitively. Analytics and storage are two of the most important aspects to managing your data, and with CRM and telephony integration, those phone calls are automatically synced with your CRM. So your integration software adds the additional analytics to that record that regards call volume, the likelihood of dialing through, and a lot of other metrics. One-click calls, those are also called click-to-dial by a lot of telephony vendors. Basically, users can dial any number with one click. So your CRM integration gives your employees the ability to dial, let's say, from a website just by clicking on the number that's on the website. And then the system automatically pulls up a notepad to log the call and file that data once the call is complete. So some of the benefits of that, it's saving a lot of time. Your employees aren't having to manually dial. That also eliminates any potential dialing errors. And then it makes calling easier because the functionality is very similar to mobile web browsing, and that's something that nowadays we're all very familiar with, so it feels very natural. Stored call history for each customer. That's viewing a complete record of the incoming and outgoing business phone calls, including the name of the caller, the extension dialed, the time, the date, the duration, other metrics. That helps you track productivity, search and sort call logs quickly, and you have easy access to that information through the integration. That's also great regardless of whether or not you work in a call center, but let's just say, especially for call centers, if you have one rep that was working on something and they put some notes in and a week later something else pops up with that customer, all that data from that previous call and that previous rep is in there so the next rep knows where to pick up. And that works the same for sales as well. And then last but not least on this slide, interactive call scripts. So call scripting gives your employees these predefined scripts to capture important customer data, and that reduces your call time and creates a more involved and productive conversation right from the start. So the CRM can display specific scripts that you prepare beforehand based on the rules you set. An example of that would be maybe you set a basic sales pitch call script to use with contacts that are tagged as a prospect in the CRM. And that also ties in with the whole concept of process automation and building that into your CRM and into your business system. Anything you can automate, any process you can standardize really streamlines your business operations, and it keeps all your team members on the same page. Okay, what else can we look for in integration? Well, screen pops, that refers to the process of just presenting the end user data to an employee automatically during an interaction, so they don't need to manually search for the customer data. So when a call comes in, the customer data pops onto the employee's screen. Increased personalization. So generalized sales pitches are replaced by these targeted communications and constructed using the information from the CRM. And then further, the message is delivered using the customer's preferred channel. So that can be email or a personal contact or any other method that is preferred. And then kind of going back to what we were talking about before with contact centers and call centers, there's a lot of benefits for those particular areas as well. Improved data access. So, your agents are getting the full scope of that customer data. All the data is organized centrally. Everything that is related to that contact, their purchase history, the conversations that they've had, That's all logged in there to make it easier to interact with the customers in a personalized and timely manner. And that increases your chances for first contact resolution, which the customer definitely always appreciates, right? Great communication and accountability. CRM enables employees across departments to share accurate information about customers through their updates. CRM and telephony benefits, therefore, include greater accountability so that every employee has a clear understanding of their personal responsibilities in customer service or sales, and they're held accountable for both the successes and the weak points in the customer life cycle. So you can use those data points for example, if you have your customer service department and you see that they're resolving 5 issues a day, and that's too low for the volume of customer service calls you're getting. You can look at the metrics on how long are they on calls with people, how many calls are they making versus how many calls are they resolving, and you can start to compare all that data and try to understand the reasons why that's occurring, and then you can react to that. Enhanced overall efficiency. So again, communication across all departments, and that's true of any integration that you do. If you're integrating telephony and CRM or your ERP in a CRM, any time that you can take data from more than one system and overlap it together, you're enhancing the visibility for all departments to be able to make use of that data, and that's huge. Increased sales. So database is providing valuable information regarding customer buying habits and preferences, and that's ideal for promoting additional products or services. Reducing costs, less time and resources needed to manage those customer interactions. You're automating and capturing the call activity directly into the CRM. So what does that mean? That means better lead management. You're keeping track of all the best times to call your customers. And now you have these valuable real-time metrics and KPIs that are going to improve your sales and marketing strategies. And then superior customer service, which is obviously when you're looking at repeat customers, we go back to our chart on the other page, which I'll remind you here. These customers that we're keeping, that's our goal. We want to build on that, but we want to satisfy our current customers. We want them to stick with us. So when employees deliver on timelines, they provide precise information, they give you that personalized touch, you're setting the stage for that great customer experience. And the benefits of streamlined data management and efficiency foster greater brand loyalty and customer retention to make that a reality. And then last but not least on our list here, recording and note-taking capabilities. So your CRM notes, your previous customer interactions, your sales processes, those are all pulled up automatically to enable the employee and the customer to have a positive interaction right from the start. So I'm going to hand this back to Chris, and he's going to talk to us about a couple more major points we need to look at.
Thanks, Deneen, and great job. I don't know how much more I can add to what Deneen said, but one of the biggest things that Deneen said on the next part of the slide was how basically anything that you can streamline and automate in business, obviously every business owner should be looking for those types of things. And that's one of the things that I think a lot of people forget to do with telephony. We all have some type of CRM. And more the CRM is becoming the central part of the business. So any way we can find, and I think everybody knows this, that a lot of employees, we struggle to get the employees to use the CRM. So any way we can figure out on how we can get the data to automatically get added to the CRM without the employees having to do anything, it's just going to help us with better visibility, better understanding what's going on in the organization. And I always like to say, like CEOs, the business owners, entrepreneurs, board members, more than anything, they want data. And in order to get data, you got to have a communication system that is in the cloud, has APIs that can be extracted and pumped into the CRM. And if you want to go one step further, a lot of businesses don't even have their emails automatically logged into the CRM. And that should be something that's table stakes. But integration right now in the phase of where we're at in technology, we are struggling because a lot of industries are coming together, as you can see from this call. We have people who are good with CRM, we have people who are good with communications, you have people who are good with office collaboration, and they really didn't intersect until as of late, probably the past couple of years. And now these businesses are coming together because the customer wants us to come together. They want us to, hey, I want to call one person who's going to help me, make sense of all this. Like, I don't want to have to call the telephony people. I don't want to just call the CRM people. I don't want to just call my email provider. I need somebody who's going to help me put all this together, because at the end of the day, I need better data. And the only way this works is, having calls like this and finding ways to better integrate. I mean, I think Deneen, like I can't tell you enough what a great job she did, covering all those topics and those points. I mean, a lot of business owners don't even know a lot of this stuff is done, or they're just too busy to take the time to make it happen. I will say this, I forgot one other thing, but the other thing on the cloud telephony is obviously mobility. And I don't know why I forgot to say this, but mobility is key now. More and more people are working from home. They're working on the go. And I always tell people, you wouldn't let your employees use their personal email for work, would you? So I don't know why we let our employees use their personal cell phones when we have all these capabilities. That data belongs to the business. And we need to ensure that these users or these employees, they are using business tools. Even though they're on the go or they're working from home, they need to use the business tools that the company provided. When I look for a telephony provider, at the end of the day, all this integration stuff sounds great, sounds amazing, but we still have to remember the fundamentals. We have to remember, at the end of the day, if we're going to the cloud, we got to make sure that the network is good. And if you have to upgrade your network, if you got to get SD-WAN or whatever, you got to make sure that your network is sufficient, because the last thing you can deal with is bad calls, period. The other thing that I would look for is making sure that whatever platform you go with, and there's a lot in the market, making sure that that platform has APIs. Because as your business evolves and you start working more and more with CRM vendors or business process consultants, they're going to need to be able to manipulate data, and as they're looking for ways to manipulate data, they're going to have to look for APIs. And if the phone system that you're on with your business doesn't have APIs, it's not going to work. And the last and final piece that I always say is, like, look for the people who are really good at providing a function, because a lot of people out there, I just don't know how you can be good at everything. And look for companies that are just really good at providing communications. They're solid. And that, make sure you call and see if they answer their phone for support. Get references. Communications it's a big deal. It's real-time communications. And we can't afford to have our communications, especially when we're talking, to lag or interrupt or disconnect. We won't stand for it. I'll hand this back to Denise.
Thank you, Chris. So when you are evaluating those integration providers, there are some things you need to think about. First of all, and this touches on what Chris said, where are my users? And what that makes me think about is, I remember, unrelated to telephony integration, this was more specific to CRM, because one of our main focuses is CRM, but we had set up a CRM system for a customer, and the majority of their employees were in the field. They were a company that sold grain and farm equipment, and so their employees were literally just always out in the middle of nowhere, driving around, and they would have to do remote calls on their customers, go straight to their farm, and enter the information. So they needed capability mobily, and again, this goes back to what Chris was saying, having that mobile functionality where they would enter information into their CRM offline, because when you're in the middle of nowhere, you don't really have a mobile reception. And then when they would come back into the reception area, that would update for them. And that was huge for them, huge, because their CRM was in their pocket. And with telephony integration, it's the same concept. Your information about all the calls you're making is in your pocket if you have those sales reps or service reps that are out in the field. And that is an invaluable resource to have, especially in today's business world. So one of the questions that relates to where are my users, you need to think about, are they all in the office? Are they all remote? Is it a mixture? And how will that affect what I need for telephony? How are you utilizing this? Are you a call center? Or do you consult? Do you sell a certain product and you need to log information about those products? Some telephony systems are highly specialized for call centers, and others are more dynamic and they can be utilized by really any type of business. You want to know which one you're looking at, and if you're not sure, just ask. Integration, I cannot stress that enough. As experts in software implementation, any one of my coworkers can tell you how disastrous it can be when a client tries to implement a solution that wasn't built to talk to their current system. So you want to make sure that those systems work together. And just to emphasize what Chris said, you also want to make sure that that telephony system has that API as well. So the whole idea is getting your telephony and your CRM to work with each other instead of against each other. So you want that telephony solution to easily connect to the CRM that you already have. And that segues into our next point on scaling. So can they scale together? A cloud telephony system should easily scale. If you're using on-premise CRM with a cloud system, you might have to consider how those differences could affect that scalability. So that's a question you probably would want to ask that telephony provider or your software consultant to explain those options to you. Support-wise, at TI, we work as a liaison between our customers and their providers. So if an issue comes up, we handle it for them. But if you're flying solo, you will have to have a discussion with your cloud telephony provider on what kind of support options they're going to offer you. Is it strictly online? Is it like a 48-hour return on a call? Or is there direct phone support? Are you going to be emailing a team? What kind of timeline are you looking at for those issue resolutions? And who are you going to have to go to? Another question to ask is, what do you do if your integration's having issues? Are they going to designate a specific representative to work with you on your specific account, or is it going to be a different person every time? And of course, I have to mention that dealing with those sorts of issues, especially integration issues, is a lot easier if you have an advocate like a consultant, such as ourselves, because we handle that for you. We let you know when there's a bug fix or an update, or we need to get into the system and fix something for you. So it kind of reduces that stress and the hassle of putting out fires when things like that come up. And then, do my vendors line up with my vision for how my company wants to utilize this? That question might be more of a gut instinct, but sometimes what a vendor is saying and what you're hearing can get lost in translation. So based on what you're hearing, does this vendor seem to understand your business? Do they know your industry? And again, I'll circle back to Chris's awesome advice that ask for references. Ask for, who have they worked with before? Can they tell you about a project like this that they've done? And that'll give you a better idea of if it's going to fit your specific business. So what I want to do is hand it over to Chris to just talk about how you can maximize those benefits once you have that integration.
So, and again, thanks again for that. The one of the things that I think that people fail to realize is how many employees are out there are actually logging their calls to the CRM manually. there was a study that was done by a university, and I don't know it off the top of my head, but it was just like the average time it takes to log a call is like 4 minutes. If you could take away that actual aspect of the work and to have those calls automatically logged, and then if you even wanted to go one step further, imagine if you had those calls automatically transcribed and automatically input into the CRM. It would change the way you completely work and how you could run reports, look for patterns in words that were said, how many calls the average user is using. I mean, people always are always saying like, hey, the reporting's not accurate. Well, guess what? This time it is accurate. The calls are captured. You can't lie. Like this is what I see. This is the real data. Because now in today's business, a lot of us struggle with capturing clean data. A lot of it, everyone just always, oh, it's not actual, right? It's not real. So having integration could really change the way that you work and analyze data and behavior and all kinds of great, wonderful things that you can do for your business to operate at a much more effective level. I think this is your slide.
Okay, thank you. And so when you're getting started with integration, we mentioned a lot of the benefits. We mentioned what to look for and the questions to ask. The overarching umbrella of all of that are two major things. One, understanding your components. What do you need this integration to do for your specific business? Are you the type of business that can just kind of handle an out-of-the-box standard function type of telephony, or are you going to need some sort of advanced or custom features? Will you need to build special integration capabilities? Just want to make sure that whatever CRM or hosted phone solution you have or are switching to is able to integrate and they're able to speak to one another and grow together in the way that your business needs to grow. And then selecting the right system. So there's a lot of technical factors to consider between software systems, and configurations can sometimes get complicated. That makes researching on your own a little bit overwhelming and confusing at times. So select the right system. We recommend working with a consultant like Corporate Technologies Group or Technology Advisors who knows the questions to ask and can not only guide your buyer's journey, but circling back to what I was talking about before, protecting your business and making sure that you have a successful deployment and you have that continued support and someone who's working as an advocate for you. So we breeze through this situation quite quickly, but we'll open the floor up to some questions. I also would like to note that you will receive a follow-up email to this webinar where we will send you the recording. And again, I would like to emphasize there is in that bottom widget there a downloadable PDF and a link to the next telephony webinar we're going to do, which is more of a use case on how one company used CRM telephony integration to build up their sales intelligence and their service components. Okay, so we did have a question come in, and since I'm still talking, I will field that to Chris. The question is, can you comment on the costs and benefits of using a phone system that integrates with CRM out of the box versus interfacing with an API?
So if I understand this question, is it better to buy integration that's already pre-built versus building it yourself? Is that the question? Is that right? Would you say? If I'm assuming that's the question, then obviously there's a lot of companies right now. So what you want to do as a company, and I always, because I've spent so much time in this space, is you want to find companies that actually support the integration, like they develop it in-house. And I'll tell you why. Because obviously, if cost is not an issue, then obviously go buy whatever phone system you want, and then go buy another third-party integration off the shelf, or you can build it yourself. If you build it yourself, that means you're going to be responsible for maintaining it, servicing it, loving it. It's going to be a never-ending cost, and eventually you're just going to get fed up with it, and you're not going to want to spend the money anymore, and you're just going to go buy one that's pre-built. and sometimes it's more expensive, but you don't have to support it, you don't have to manage it. But I like there's two companies out there. They pre-build all their own stuff, and I would go with one of them. If you go with another company, they might not have it themselves. They might have to go buy it from somebody else. So that means your costs are going to get a lot higher. So and because this is an unbiased show, maybe later to talk about what those two companies are, and we'll go from there. Janine, Lighton.
Okay, yep. And also it was confirmed that is what they were asking.
And I will say this: I've actually gotten a lot of calls from a lot of big vendors who've called me and asked me like, "Hey, what should I do? Should I build this myself?" Because they're kind of behind the curve. They didn't see the vision 3-5 years ago, and now they have to buy it off the shelf. And it's getting expensive. So a lot of people are going to try to build it themselves in house, and it's going to cost you a lot of money. I mean, the fees. It's just going to cost you. The fees will just add up. I mean, it's a never-ending, money dump.
Leighton, was there anything else? Any other questions?
Yes. We have another question. How long does it take to implement a CRM solution? So with that, a CRM solution, like Chris just said, if it's like an out-of-the-box, like ready-to-go solution, it could take a couple days, depending on how your system's already set up. However, if you need a CRM that fully meets your business needs, it might be worth it to build a custom solution. So that the length of your project can vary from 2 to 6 months, depending on the following considerations of the amount of data that's being imported, a number of customizations required, what other third-party integrations are needed, such as email, the cloud telephony solution, if you want to integrate that, and how many departments or users will be using the CRM. And then with that, we have how long does it take to implement a cloud telephony solution. With the cloud telephony, it can be about 4 to 6 weeks just for a hosted phone solution. That doesn't include any kind of internet circuits. If you're going to be doing voice over IP, that can extend the project it can extend the project. But that's where consultants like Corporate Technologies Group and technology advisors can come in. They can help you with timelines, figuring out how long those solutions can be implemented, and work with your companies to figure that out with you. Any other questions? How does integrating CRM and cloud telephony help sales? This is a pretty big question, as CRM and cloud telephony, if you have sales people, you want them to help. You want your systems to work for you. CRM can support your sales team at every stage of the sales cycle, like we touched on within the presentation, whether it's leads to customer management. We can view and manage account activity and communications, use the reports to forecast sales, measure business activity, identify trends that are happening, as well as qualify leads and track prospective customers, centralize customer data, as well as access, update, and share information across teams as well as departments. Do we have any additional questions from the audience? I think.
Yeah, it looks like if any other questions come up, of course, again, I would like to emphasize that our contact information is on the console if you need to reach out to us about anything. And then additionally, if you have had a chance to fill out that survey, we would just appreciate it. It gives us a better idea of what you're trying to learn and making sure that we're providing that for you. So we appreciate your time today. We appreciate Leighton and Chris collaborating on this with us, and we hope that we've answered a lot of your baseline questions about this, and we're going to dive deeper into this and continue to expand our knowledge base on it going forward. So keep an eye out. Corporate Technologies Group and Technology Advisors both have blogs and talk about these sorts of topics a lot of times. And we try to continue our events like this one to handle these sorts of tough business questions. So I just want to say thank you to everybody for being here today. And again, you can expect a follow-up from us within the next day or so. So thank you, Leighton and Chris, and thank you to all our attendees.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.